The Department of Justice has revealed that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem made the final decision not to comply with the federal judge's order earlier this year to stop those deportation flights of alleged Venezuelan gang members under the Alien Enemies Act. According to a court filing, Noem was informed of the judge's orders to turn the flights around last March, but she decided that the detainees had already been removed from the United States so they could continue to be transferred to the notorious Seacourt prison in El Salvador. The disclosure comes as Judge James Boasberg seeks to revive criminal contempt proceedings against Trump administration officials who authorized the flights.
So Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, was thrown under the bus by the DOJ, outing her as the one who authorized deportation flights for migrants, including Venezuelan detainees, to an El Salvador prison, even after a federal judge had ordered the flights to be stopped. A blatant disregard for court orders that, in any functioning democracy, would raise a few questions about due process and respect for the rule of law.
Let's just remember, armed with these legal arguments from Bovee and others, what Kristi Noem did with it. She gave the order, per reporting now, to continue these flights to the prison in El Salvador, which is described as a hellish prison, one of the worst, harshest conditions on earth. And we now know, through terrific reporting from a number of our fellow outlets, just that more than half, I believe, of those who were sent there had no criminal records. We know, per reporting, the horrendous abuse that they received while there, torture-like conditions. Some reported of being sexually abused.
But that would mean said person in question gives a shite about adhering to anything but the wants and well wishes of her fearless cult leader. Unless it involves someone in her inner circle getting rich, right? We all remember this explosive investigation by ProPublica that revealed the DHS awarded over $200 million advertising campaign contracts to the Stronger Border, Stronger American Blitz.
ProPublica published quite a scoop about Trump DHS Secretary Kristi Noem that in any other era, I should say, would be a career-ending scandal. But to understand the pattern of corruption of this woman, we just have to zoom out just a little bit, just for a moment. Because since Noem took over DHS at the beginning of the year, she's become known for appearing to be more obsessed with putting on various costumes than doing her actual job. I mean, she donned a bulletproof vest just to talk to her own agents. She wore a Customs and Border Patrol uniform on Fox News. And of course, she is constantly, and I mean constantly, throwing on a cowboy hat and riding horses. Always with plenty of cameras around to capture the moment. But Noem's apparent obsession with image actually goes much further than just putting on costumes, because she has directed more than 200 million taxpayer dollars into TV ads to promote her work at DHS. And just to put it in context, that is nearly twice what DHS spent on ads altogether in all of last year. And the content of those ads have already been a scandal kind of in and of themselves.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border.
And if you're wondering who exactly the target audience is for that, DHS spent $30,000 to run that ad, the one I just showed you, specifically in the ad market where Mar-a-Lago is. Now, as much as spending tens of thousands of dollars to make sure your ad plays on the TV near the president is a bizarre waste of taxpayer money, $30,000, it turns out, is a drop in the bucket compared to the more than $200 million DHS has spent this year making and airing ads. And the rest of that money is where the story gets truly bonkers. I mean, since March, we have known that DHS skipped the normal competitive bidding process when giving out the contracts to make and air these ads. DHS claimed that because Trump declared an emergency at the southern border, they didn't have to waste time getting competitive bids. And that brings me to the first part of ProPublica's big scoop today. Because it turns out that the majority of that no-bid contract money, $143 million taxpayer dollars, went to this kind of mysterious LLC in Delaware. An LLC that was created just days before it got that no-bid contract, just days. And the man who owns the home that LLC lists as its address did not respond to ProPublica's questions. Now, when asked why the agency chose that LLC, DHS said, quote, "The results speak for themselves," and then proceeded to claim that Trump has made the border the most secure it has been in American history. Not exactly answering the question. So DHS gave a $143 million no-bid contract to a brand new LLC that no one seems to know anything about. That is obviously a scandal enough to begin with.
That was to a firm with deep personal and political ties to Kristi Noem, the firm called Strategy Group, which helped craft Noem's own political campaigns in the past, secretly profited through a shell company while receiving millions in public funds. Records show that Noem was connected via several close aides and advisors to people who profited from the contract. Taxpayer money may have ended up in the pockets of political allies. Critics, like none other than Jasmine Crockett, called it, quote, blatant corruption.
Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Not only has Secretary Noem been busy filming propaganda ads, she's also been busy cashing in on millions of taxpayer dollars. In fact, Secretary Noem has funneled millions of dollars to a company called the Strategy Group. The Strategy Group helped Secretary Noem win her campaign to become the governor of South Dakota. Corey Lewandowski, her top policy advisor, has worked with the firm. And the company's CEO is married to Secretary Noem's chief spokesperson, Mrs. Tricia McLaughlin. This is what corruption looks like. They're stealing money from the American people's pockets and depositing it into their bank accounts.
And Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, you should familiarize yourself with the four corners of this room. Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, get to know that witness chair. You're going to be parked in it for a long time. You're going to have a lot of questions under oath with the subpoena power. And I hope what you're doing is clean and can withstand the scrutiny that everyone on this side of the aisle is going to bring. You think we won't do it. You think you're invincible. You're wrong. Accountability is coming. You've got about a year, and I yield back.
And again, this administration, well, they just continue to undermine public trust. When the secretary is caught blatantly lying while defying court orders and allegedly giving kickbacks to her mates, how can the public trust them to manage a vending machine, let alone Homeland Security?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. My name is Andrea Velez, a proud daughter of Mexican immigrants and a Cal Poly Pomona graduate. I was raised with morals, kindness, respect, and always doing what is right. I am soft-spoken, but today I must speak for myself and for those who cannot. On Tuesday, June 24, my mother and sister dropped me off at work. Seconds later, unmarked cars swarmed the streets and masked men in plain clothing began chasing and attacking people without identifying themselves as ICE. One of them ran towards me. Terrified, I'd used my work bag as a shield, but he slammed me into the sidewalk and accused me of interfering. When I asked for his badge or a warrant, he refused and handcuffed me. They didn't believe I was a U.S. citizen or bothered to check my ID. My mother and sister saw it all. Powerless to intervene, they called 911. But LAPD assisted ICE instead of protecting me. Another U.S. citizen, Luis Hipolito, was detained that day for recording. He was pepper sprayed, beaten. They minimized his pain as not a big deal, despite convulsing, bleeding, and struggling to breathe. Only after he was into shock did ICE call an ambulance. I spent most of the first day shackled in a van, watching others arrive distraught and taken against their will, while ambulances came and went for those attacked. Inside, I was denied the right to call my family or speak to a lawyer. ICE refused to disclose my whereabouts. Requests to use the bathroom or asking for food were met with hostility and anger. At the Metropolitan Detention Center, I could not access drinking water without purchasing a cup. Thankfully, another detainee lent me theirs. I was held there until Thursday, and my case was dismissed 2 weeks later for lack of evidence. Since that day, I no longer feel safe. I detached from my trauma, yet our community continues to be targeted because of the color of our skin. I urge you to hold ICE and other agencies accountable for dehumanizing our Hispanic and immigrant communities. Thank you.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.